Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Under the Dome podcast. I'm Anne Marie Bush, Director of Communications for KNEA, and with me I have Timothy R. Graham, Director of Government Relations for KNEA. And how are you doing this week, Tim?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you just got back from Phoenix, right?
Yeah, and I went out there. I'm the staff liaison for our KNEA retired group, and they have their annual training and conference every year in March. So this was my second year to attend with three of our members, Sherry Turnbull, which is our president of KNEA Retired, and then Mary Masters traveled out with us as well. And then we met Chris Huntsman, who is also a retired member of ours, who spends this time of year in California. So she drove in, and we had a great time, enjoyed the conference. There were several really good training sessions, and I obviously enjoyed the company.
Good. I'm glad. All right, Tim. I'm glad you had a good time. Let's get back down to business, I guess.
That's right.
And let's talk about the Senate debate on Tuesday about the budget.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So the Senate's version of the budget was debated on Tuesday, as you said. It was a long debate. Let me tell you how long it was. I started listening to that debate in my hotel room, or in my hotel in Phoenix, listened to it all the way to the airport, listened to it as I was waiting to board the plane. I was able to get somewhat decent Wi-Fi on the plane, listened to the debate throughout the entire flight. And then as I stood to pick up my bags and drive home, I was still listening to this debate on Tuesday. So it was about a 7-hour debate.
Wow. Anything come out of that?
Yeah, there was some interesting debate over education. There were several amendments that were offered. I'll talk about them here in a second. But at the end of the day, what happened is the Senate narrowly passed their budget 21-19. And the only thing that's notable is that it only included $5 million. Well, originally it included $5 million of special ed enhancements. Throughout the debate, there were one of the amendments that passed actually added another measly $1 million to it, or to the budget with for special education funding. So at the end of the day, the Senate budget only had $6 million of new funding for special ed. And we all obviously know that's a problem because we're always underfunding special ed.
And last week, the House passed.
The House's bill had at least $10 million, yes, which again is way too small. But that's what they had, and the Senate couldn't even meet them there. So that, and we'll talk here in a second about the next steps, but that will make for an interesting debate in the conference committee of whether they stick with the House position of $10 million or whether they stick with the Senate position of $6 million or whether they try to get cute and meet somewhere in the middle. No matter what they do, it's not going to be enough money for special education. Now, I will say that the budget does include the court-ordered CPU funding, so there is a lot of increases in the budget, or there is a big increase in the budget for K-12 spending. However, those are court-ordered, and we were expecting that, so it wasn't a big surprise. There were several amendments that were offered during the debate. We had three amendments that failed that were offered by Democratic senators. Dinah Sykes offered an amendment that would have extended the school finance formula for an additional year. Most of you may know that the current school finance formula will sunset or will end in July of next year. She wanted to extend that out another year and let the so-called school funding task force have an extra year to work on that. That amendment went down. Senator Ethan Corson proposed redirecting about $2.5 million in budget money over to reduce the cost of school meals for students who qualify for reduced school lunch or free school lunch. It would have basically eliminated the co-pays that certain students have to do be part of that program. That amendment failed. And then Senator Cindy Holscher introduced an amendment that would have shifted funding from several different portions of the budget and would have taken that money. I think it was about $17 million to add to SPED funding. And so let me tell you, in the last two descriptions, I've said taking money from other parts of the budget. Mm-hmm. The reason that has to be done on the floor debate is because the Senate and the House, for that matter, has a rule called pay-go. So if you are in the middle of a budget debate on either the House or the Senate and you're offering an amendment that would add new money, you have to show what other parts of the budget you're taking that money out of to pay for those amendments. So that's why both Ethan's amendment and Cindy's amendment, in order to come up with the bottom line dollars that they needed, they had to take that from other places into the budget. So that's pay-go. That's a rule that's been adopted in the last 5 to 10 years when we do budget hearing or budget debates on the floor of the House and the Senate. And in the old days, what you could do if you thought that special education funding needed another $100 million, you could offer that amendment. Now you have to pay for it. It's a way of stifling debate. It makes sense in concept, but really all it's trying to do is it's trying to stop a lot of elected officials on the floor of either the House or the Senate to come up with these monstrous additions to the budget and do it only to grandstand. So it causes problems for those of us that are serious about adding new money or mm-hmm. additional money.
All right. So
and just that last part. Go ahead and let them hear what pay-go means. There were also two other amendments that went on that are concerning at a minimum. Beverly Gossage, Senator Beverly Gossage, she offered an amendment that would have eliminated the funding for what's called the MHIT, which stands for Mental Health Intervention Team pilot program that is in schools. This pilot program has been funded the last couple of years through provisos. Mm-hmm. We have had a really hard time getting this program actually in statute. So it's been funded through provisos. We actually, it was either, I think it was 2 years ago, we actually, it was 2 sessions ago, we supported the bill that created this pilot program. Obviously, the bill, which would have codified the program in statute, didn't pass. So that's why it continues to be funded through what's called a proviso. So it's a one or two sentences in the budget bill. So what she did is she eliminated that program basically.
Oh,
which,
wow!
Yeah,
and that's a pretty important program. I have heard of it.
It is an important program, and it's a bipartisan concept and program that was built by former legislators like Brenda Landwehr, Republican from Wichita. Molly Baumgardner, Republican from the Kansas City area, and with Governor Kelly's input. So it is an important program, and this program has been controversial since its inception because of the players that are involved. Mm-hmm. Here we go back to just identity politics and personality politics as opposed to doing what's best for the kids.
It becomes more about politics instead of the students.
Yeah. So absolutely. So if you take the people that may not have liked Brenda Landwehr, and you take the people that don't want to give Laura Kelly a victory, or people that didn't like Molly Baumgardner, then you will have people that have had a target on this, or have leveled it, or have had a target on this program since day one. Currently, the program the program is in the budget for about $16 million. Okay, so you could say Beverly Senator Gossage took that $16 million out of the budget and put it all to special education, and that would be, probably not ideal, but it would be more defensible. However, she killed the program, mm-hmm. and then for some reason decided that $1 million out of that $16 million she could put back into special ed funding in the budget. So that's when I said earlier about how the budget started with $5 million and ended up with $6 million. It was because of this amendment.
And did it pass?
It did. It passed. It passed. The other amendment that was proposed and went on was basically, and this was from Senator Mike Murphy down by the Hutchinson area, I believe. He proposed an amendment that would establish a complaint process and a financial penalty for schools that basically allow walkouts. And of course, the walkouts that are in question are the ones that are revolving around ICE.
Yes, because those have been, we've heard about those all across the country.
Yeah. So it sounds like possibly, I mean, just giving him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, it sounds like maybe there might have been one school district with the help of, and maybe even the superintendent, that heavily encouraged this type of walkout, and those that didn't agree with it thought that it was done in the wrong way, whatever. These kind of things happen, but it's not necessary to change an entire budget or put in statute these constraints if one district handled something in a way that you didn't like it. So what happens is now there's a penalty for these districts that would allow these types of walkouts without them going through one or two or several steps. Again, it's a proviso in the bill that I hope does not see past the conference committee. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It had a lot of support. Now it had 21 votes, which was the bare minimum. But still, that
was enough.
Yeah, that's enough.
So.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so what's next?
Yeah, so in talking about the conference committee a second ago, that's what's next. Okay. So the House and Senate conferees will be appointed, and they will start going through the budget item by item. And there's several rounds of the conference committees during the budget process. The conference committee process as it relates to the budget is a long one. It takes a lot of time, but if you want to try to figure out everything that's going on in your state budget, then this is the process to watch, because they really get into the weeds of every line item and go through it and go back and forth, and hopefully over the course of 2 to 3 days they'll come with an end product.
All right. I wanted to touch on a couple of other things. The cell phone bill, they're having some conversations today.
They are, yeah. So couple things that have happened with the cell phone bill. So I've brought you guys up to speed with where we are to this point. The original House bill was dropped into a Senate shell. That bill is pretty much dead. The original Senate bill, which everybody thought was probably dead, was resurrected, and it was sent. The bill was sent from the Education Committee to the Ways and Means Committee to be blessed, and we've talked about what that means in previous writings or podcasts. So it was blessed, and then yesterday, or possibly the day before, it was re-referred back to the Education Committee. I think that was early yesterday morning or late. What it would have been Tuesday night. And then
the days kind of just meld together, don't they?
They do, especially when you're at conference. Phoenix. Yeah. Yep. So it was sent back to the Education Committee, and ultimately it was worked yesterday, which means that it was deliberated and passed out. In this case, it did pass out of the committee. Basically, it is now on the general orders, and it will be debated today in the Senate. So we're back to the Senate bill. They've added some, they made some amendments. Several of the amendments are amendments that we had asked for. However, there is one amendment that was made to the bill yesterday that is still, the verdict is still out on whether it was a good amendment. It deals with certification. I'm sorry, not certification. It deals with accreditation of non-public schools. And there's some people that think that it's a nothing burger. There's other people that think that that's a really, really bad way to go. So we are watching that pretty closely. But there were several amendments that were put in 302, which again will be debated today in the Senate, we were able to get teacher and educator liability protections in the bill. That was something that was in our testimony. We were able to keep the reporting provision that was in the original House bill, HB 2421, I think. There was a provision in there that we've talked about that was the full reason that we did not support the House bill. We opposed it. We were able to keep that out of 302. There was a sentence put in there that I believe would address the concern of that some students are the caregivers for their younger siblings, and that they need to have that phone accessible during the school day. So we were able to get that distinction, that little sentence into the bill. So our testimony worked in a lot of ways. We didn't get everything we wanted.
But we made some headway.
We made some headway, at least. Again, remember, we were neutral on that bill, but feeling that bill was going to pass, instead of just being hell no and walking away from the conversation, we testified appropriately and lobbied heavily to get some of these changes on the bill. Again, this change on accreditation, I still don't really know what that fully means. We will be talking about that as a team probably tomorrow.
Yeah. And we'll try to have some kind of update written maybe today or in the wrap-up tomorrow. So
absolutely.
Anything else that you wanted to cover on that before we move on to two other quick bills?
I've probably missed a lot, but let's move.
Okay. Senate Bill 491, the Education Inspector General and Misconduct Registry. Can you just touch on that?
So, really bad bill. That was a bill that was scheduled kind of late. We had to get the testimony in last week. We offered written testimony. I was out of the again, I was in Phoenix when the hearing took place, and we chose not to testify on WebEx. And it's a bad bill. And a lot of things that were in the bill, basically, at the end of the day, it was too broad in its approach. I don't even think we need an Education Inspector General, but let's say that we lose that part of the argument. This bill was drafted in a way that would give this so-called Inspector General broad powers to harass school districts and teachers and other people. So we testified against it. We submitted written testimony, pretty substantial testimony with a lot of concerns we had in it. The good news is that I don't anticipate this bill going anywhere this year. I think that even some of the members of the Senate Education Committee that aren't typically close allies of ours also believe that the bill might have been too broad. So, again, I think that we'll have an opportunity to talk more about that next year, and I just hope that they don't try to pull something, fancy or cute to get that bill to pass this year, because I don't think that's the intention.
Okay. The final bill I wanted to just talk briefly about was Senate Bill 350, the Age Appropriate School Device Act. Can you just give us a little update on that?
First of all, this is another bill that I don't believe is going to pass this year. I think this was introduced in order to kind of start the conversation. This is a bill that would limit screen time on all the district purchased and approved devices.
Okay.
iPads, laptops, other computer devices in the classroom. This is the brainchild of Senator Scott Hill from Abilene. I had a pretty extensive conversation with Scott before I went to Phoenix to talk about this bill. He had asked where we thought, or where I thought we would be. I told him we had several resolutions that actually support these types of devices in the committee or in the classroom. But however, we also have a resolution in our resolutions that speaks to the danger of screen time to students and how important that is to let parents know about that. So we're kind of in the middle of that to a certain extent, but this bill goes too far. I told him that the bill goes too far, but what we did is we presented pretty substantial opposition testimony to this bill. When I say substantial, it was testimony that was longer in length. But I did that in a way that I could show him that we are in good faith taking his thoughts seriously, taking his concept seriously, and telling him why we oppose it. A lot of times we oppose something on a general basis or a general talking point and don't really get into why we oppose it. This time we took the time to actually kind of pick the bill apart, give him concerns we had with the bill. So if he does come back and if this bill were to get some sort of traction, that at least we stay at the table in that discussion. What I will say about Scott is he truly, truly believes that that screen time is contributing to a mental health crisis for our kids. I think there's plenty of reasonable evidence to support that. So I don't want to just knee-jerk say no to this bill. I wanted to show him that if you're going to do this, then you really need to rely upon the experts.
Yeah.
So that's where that's at. Again, I don't think that that's going anywhere this year. I don't think Scott intends for it to go anywhere, but he did want to start this conversation.
All right. Anything else you want to bring up? Or
I'm sure I'm missing something, but in the spirit of time, let's get out of here.
I know you've got to get out of here. So just a reminder, if you haven't registered, and this is for members and non-members, if you haven't registered for our March 17th Lucky to Have Kansas Public Schools rally, go ahead and do that. We did secure some bus.
So there will be. So for those of you that are coming to Topeka and you're worried about parking, which can be very tricky during the session, or you're worried about walking an extended distance, we're offering parking in at headquarters, at KNEA headquarters, 715 Southwest 10th, mm-hmm. Not Northwest, Southwest 10th, and we will have kind of a trolley that's going back and forth, I think, every half hour.
Yeah, so that's we're looking forward to that, and please go ahead and look on our social media or check out the Under the Dome for an article on that. Check out the newsletter.
What is Under the Dome again?
Under the Dome is www.ksutd.org.
Yes.
And look for that. Scan the QR code to register for that so we know we can kind of get an estimate of how many people are going to be there. So thank you, Tim, for being here and taking the time. I know that you're busy, so we'll let you get out of here.
I know you're busy too, so don't.
But everybody's busy. So
Everybody's
thanks
busy.
for updating
It's a busy world.
Yes, thanks for updating us. And thank you for listening, and catch us next week for all the Under the Dome information. And again, thanks for listening. Have a great day.
All right.